Well, all right, it is 7 o'clock. We have at least 7 society members and 4 board members. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to share my screen right now first. Try. So Mel, I've called the meeting to order. Welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. There's my first slide I was just talking about. Hopefully there won't be any redundancies and we can carry on. I wanted to mention about our agenda tonight that you all received. This is one of the results of the Hatley project already. We've kind of adopted this, this format. And just by way of introduction, the information items don't quite flow the way they're listed here. We are going to have a tribute right away. And then Warren is going to finish off as well at the end of the evening with an information item. One thing that the Hatley group had suggested is routine reports get placed in the consent agenda. So we've left meeting agenda and the minutes in there so that you can kind of approve it with one fell swoop. And in our regular meetings, we've been placing our financials in there as well. And Rob's staff reports, just to deal with it quite quickly. The idea there is that we would look carefully at the material that's been sent out. And if there's something that anybody really feels is urgent or needs to be spoken about that's not on the agenda as a decision item or a discussion item, we would pull those out for item 6 there. But I'm not anticipating we should have to do that this evening. But I just wanted to share with you the fact that we're kind of working on a new format, which Mel could give me a thumbs up if I think she thinks this is a pretty good improvement over our last one. Let's see what else then. A reminder to you folks out there, one of the agenda items will be for us to select 2 society members to audit our books for the 2021 year. We have a couple of motions that we made at the last regular meeting that to speed things up, but anybody that's a society member is entitled to step up and say, I'll look over the annual membership, or sorry, the annual financial statements at the end of the year and sign off on them. This year, Warren Waxer and Greg Key performed that function, and they've actually signed the good copy of the financial statement. So that'll be coming up in a couple of minutes. So having said that, is there someone that would care to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, which would be the agenda that I've supplied in the minutes, unless there's somebody who wants to add something to the agenda, which would probably complicate our lives. So let's not, but lots of time for discussion if you want. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda. It's
right.
Mel.
That's Mel. And I see Allison is seconding that, as did Warren, but we'll say Allison seconded. All right, thanks very much. Moving on then. Let's see if this slide progresses. Wanted to start with this. We pirated a 2019 presentation to use this evening, just so we didn't have to recreate the wheel. Now, one of the things that we found interesting about it was in 2019, we actually lost 3 really significant volunteers and society members. Arvin Hillworth passed away that year. Bert Wade passed away that year. And we have a bit of recognition tonight. And I thought this might be a good way to commemorate that, because we also lost the fellow that's standing second from the left, Bob Dowling. He also died in 2019, and we did a little bit of a tribute to him for that reason. As it turns out, this gentleman also passed away this year. And of course, he is our last surviving, or was our last surviving original board member. Now, I can't see my screen very well because I've got my Zoom taskbar in the way. But Mr. Peterson is the fellow standing third from the right. So we thought it was kind of fitting maybe to open this way. And while I was at it, I was going to make the comment how proud we are of the Jasper Stories feature that our museum has been doing fairly regularly. And it occurs to me how many stories are represented just by these gentlemen here. And I make mention of the lady standing beside Tom, as you can see from the caption, is actually Tom's mother, Constance, who was pretty instrumental in developing the museum. And there are stories about her hiding artifacts under her bed and in her closets until we got the museum going. And I just want to say that perhaps that's something we might invite our staff to do at some point, is put together a little bit of a history about our board and our society, which is something we sometimes tend to neglect, telling our own story. But having said that, Tom was not the only one who passed. This gentleman as well, a great supporter, professor from the University of Alberta, Peter Murphy. So at this point, what I propose to do is stop sharing my screen, and Mr. Waxer is going to share his and hopefully do a bit of a tribute here for these gentlemen as a way of starting off our meeting. So Warren, take it away. We did practice, but there's no guarantee.
It says that the host disabled participant screen sharing. What kind of hoax is this?
That's not a very friendly host, is it? Let's just see if the host can do something about that.
I've never been so insulted.
We talked about that, Herb.
Okay, let's see. See if that works.
Okay, we're getting better.
Wow, I was getting a bit nervous there. Jamie might even be more nervous, because if you can't manage, Jamie said he would take over.
Okay, do people see Tom and Peter, the names?
We do.
Okay, great. Excellent. As Stuart Taylor's recent appreciation confirmed, Tom Peterson was Jasper's historian. Tom passed away on February 2nd at the age of 91. Tom was born into Historical Society royalty, being the son of Constance Peterson, charter member and instigator of the Jasper Historical Society in 1963. Now, at that time, Mrs. Peterson was collecting artifacts for a future museum and archives, and they were stored in Tom's empty bedroom. So it was all around him. Tom was on the first board and has always been a keen historian. Tom worked for Fred Brewster at Moline Lake, doing all nature of chores, including being a fishing guide. He worked temporarily at the CIBC and eventually settled in at Crawley Moore General Contractors. It was Tom's extracurricular activity that were his real passion. Excuse me. The history of the Upper Athabasca region was his specialty, particularly the period from 1810 to 1910, taking in the David Thompson's first travels in the area, right through to the first railway construction activity and the changes that bridges and roadbeds brought to the land. Through countless hours of tromping through the bush, Tom gained an on-the-ground evidence and physical connection to the stories that he knew so well. He was generous with his time, giving talks, leading all sorts of historical outings in the area, and just answering questions, whether asked or not. Technically, Tom was an amateur historian, but given all the time he spent advising, educating academics and Parks Canada employees of the history on the ground, I think he relinquished his amateur status a long time ago. Fortunately for us and future generations, he put some of his knowledge down on paper, contributing to books such as A Hard Road to Travel and Jasper Robson, A Taste of Heaven. And if his contributions to our historical society and local knowledge were not enough, when he and his wife Vi moved to Hinton 16 years ago, he helped with the establishment of the Hinton Museum and worked to support Hinton's Historical Society and the Coal Branch Archives housed in the Hinton Library. Tom's love of local history was all-encompassing and infectious. He loved to share it, but according to his sister Dorothy, Tom's daughter Linda negotiated an agreement that he would limit his history lectures at home. They already knew the stories all too well. Now, Peter Murphy passed away on October 29th in St. Albert at the age of 90. Peter was an accomplished historian and author, but first and foremost, he was a forester. Peter was born in Montreal and graduated from the University of New Brunswick and began working for Alberta Forest Service in 1954. He eventually specialized in forest policy, forest fire behavior, and forest history. In 1960, Peter became the founding director of the Alberta Forest Service Training Branch, now known as the Hinton Training Center. In 1973, he became a professor at the University of Alberta in the newly created forestry program and eventually became the chairman, which he held until his retirement in 1995. Oh yeah, and in between these various gigs, he completed a Master's of Forestry Science at the University of Montana and a PhD at the University of British Columbia. In the forestry realm, he authored and co-authored numerous books, as well as being a contributor to the Sustainable Forest Management Technical Committee, president of the Canadian Institute of Forestry, president of the College of Alberta Professional Foresters, and a community advisor for Alberta for Tree Canada. Later in his life, he was involved in a couple of hands-on local forest management projects. In his spare time, what he had, he would delve into the forest and human history of the upper Athabasca Valley and kick around the bush with his friend and colleague, Tom Peterson. He was the lead author for A Hard Road to Travel, and anyone who has read the book or referenced the historical timeline in the back, you would realize that this is the work of an academic or a fanatic, in the best sense of the word, of course. Now, Peter and Tom were friends as well as colleagues, and we've lost two great historians in this year. They shared an interest in the route of the fur brigades and the Columbia Express in particular. And one of their major projects was presenting a paper titled Spirits in the Valley on that very subject to a very distinguished group of fur trade scholars at a major conference. They later presented the same talk to an only somewhat less distinguished group of Historical Society members in our basement. So we benefited greatly from that event. And it's interesting to note that they were so similar in many ways. Both had an incredible appetite for small details and that on-the-ground history that is really important to corroborate things. Now, both were very accomplished, incredibly humble, and generous with their time and knowledge. Both had an infectious, boyish enthusiasm for their subject, but they had different styles of inquiry. Peter had an academic background, and precision was his thing. Tom had an encyclopedic knowledge of the area that he just kept in his head. Karen Byers suggested that Peter was digital to Tom's analog, but they got along great and obviously worked well together. Sorry, I'm not keeping up with the pictures. I'm doing too much talking. And we'll be back to that eventually, those basement meetings that we miss so much. But they're the friends, and they've added so much to our knowledge of the regional history, and we owe them forever because the things that they dug up are things that are going to last for a long, long time, especially the printed material. Now, I just wanted to mention briefly, we also lost Harry Holm this past year, and he was another great friend of the Historical Society. And he left us on March 30th at the age of 86. And this was not an oversight that we did not honor him tonight. There will be a gathering in the future to honor Harry's life, and at that time, the society will acknowledge fully his great contributions to the museum, the society, and our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. That was great. I'll try and take the screen here again. And just move on to the first kind of official portion of the business, which is society and staff reports. Of course, the intention is not to read them out. You've had the package for a couple of days. Certainly are interested in answering any questions or entertaining any comments. Rob would be happy to do the same. By way of summary, though, in consultation with Rob, I thought perhaps as a board, we might just indicate what we feel perhaps some of the priorities are in the very next little while. So one of them, of course, is the consideration of the Hatley recommendations. And as you may recall from what you read, there are some suggestions about reconfiguring our committees or moving away from a committee structure. We're going to have to play that by ear as we move forward. But I am asking the question here where you might fit in. The more hands, the better, of course. There is a lot to work to do, and we're going to have to really streamline our priorities or really invigorate our volunteers. Or we're going to have to hire a lot more staff to get everything done we'd like to do. Probably a combination of those would be ideal, but I want to mention this about, this is a pretty important initiative that we've taken on this year, and COVID hasn't helped us too much with it. But as an update, actually this Friday, the Hatley Committee is meeting with Alex and Crystal, and we're going to get a little bit of an overview of the results of the survey. So thanks to all you members who filled it out. I think we had over 100 members fill it out, and over 50 community members fill it out too. So according to the Hatley group, that was a pretty impressive return for something like the Survey Monkey. So they'll be sharing that with us on this Friday, the committee, as well as giving us the first peek at the sustainability plan, the business plan, the lot recommendations, etc. And then there's a plan for them to make a full presentation to the new board on the week of the 19th of April is what we're hoping to see happen. And we will be inviting those members of the original board of this board to take part as well. I mean, we're losing 4 board members, as you're aware. They've been along the journey with us, so it'd certainly be useful to have them be able to take part and see that recommendation. So the final report, again, in the middle of April, and then the final invoice will be paid, and then it'll be up to us as a board to consider what we should adopt and the manner of adopting, etc. So pretty excited about that. Related to that, probably a priority for us should be to kind of update, redesign the website and the digital presence. And of course, the reports made mention of that. Definitely a requirement to enter the 21st century for the millennials that are on their devices. Try to drive admissions to the museum, of course, and perhaps increase our presence in terms of developing memberships and maybe getting into book quests and things of that sort. So that's probably a priority in the next little while too. And Warren may introduce somebody who hopefully can give us a bit of insights on that later on when we get to the nominations for the board part of the meeting. Another one is perhaps to try to redesign or fine-tune our financial accounts. You've probably seen we have Rob and a lot to thank for the bank account right now in the pandemic situation. I think we need to try to direct some of these funds to certain priorities, such as the website, for example. Obviously, we hope we might move on the empty lot, which could require a little bit of funding as well. So these strike us as being kind of priorities. Did speak with Mary Flanagan, for example, who her mother donated $25,000 to us, as you probably noticed in the financials. and we wanted to confirm whether there were strings attached to it or not. She's pretty thrilled about the idea that her mom and dad would think that fund perhaps starting us off for a lot redevelopment project to maybe build a new museum, or who knows what we might do there. We've talked about potentially an old folks home, and we'd call it the archives. But anyhow, more discussion on that coming out of the Hatley project. And the last thing I'll mention here is, and I was going to say it when we saw the picture of the original board, 1963, because I think this should be kind of a priority too. 63 would make 2 years from now the diamond anniversary for our historical society. I think we need to design a party somewhere in that neighborhood. And even maybe something smaller if we can sort of get past this COVID thing, even in the near future. But that's something we've talked a little bit at the board level. But we'd have some priorities, and I think that these probably summarize them pretty well. Now, I don't know, Rob, if you want to make any mentions. I'm prepared to answer questions about the reports that I submitted. I know you submitted a great one as well. So I'll give you the opportunity, Rob, to speak up, and then I'll perhaps ask for a motion to have these reports accepted. So go ahead, Rob.
So I don't have a lot of, not much to say. I mean, everything we all said was in the reports, but I just do want to thank a few people. First of all, I do want to thank all my staff, Dee, Karen, Nancy, Noreen, and Heather, who just joined us not too long ago, for all your hard work this past year. I think we got a great team here, and we couldn't have succeeded the way we have without you guys' support and your passion for the museum and that. So I just want to thank you guys all for that. Hope I didn't leave anybody else. Oh, Margaret too, I guess, considering she was there for the first 3 months. Second of all, I want to thank all our volunteers for you guys' hard work this past year. I did mention, in my report, a few people there, so I wanted to highlight, those in my report as well too. So hope you had a chance to read that. And lastly, but not least, I want to thank everyone who supported us this past year. It's been a very, very difficult time. In the end, we actually did not too bad, considering we weren't quite sure how the year would start off with, and so in the end, we actually did quite well, even though the numbers are a little bit skewed, as Jamie will probably explain a little bit later. But we couldn't have got through it without you guys' all support, your volunteers, your memberships, and your donations that contributed to our organization. So that said, I that's all I wanted to say. If anybody has any questions about the report, I'm more than happy to answer anything that anybody has. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I've kind of got my participant list kind of up visible to me right now. Ruth, you're waving a hand. Did you want to say something? Perhaps not. I'd be interested in a motion to accept the reports as presented. Somebody care to make that motion? I see Andy Klimak has made the motion. Is there a seconder?
I can second it.
Okay, Janice Yeaman is seconding it. Any discussion, any questions for Rob? Any of the board members before we call the question? Okay, well, thank you for that. That helps speed the meeting up a little bit. All those in favor of accepting the reports as presented, if you can put thumbs up or hands up, or oh, look at the hands show up here now. We don't have a majority yet. Okay, I think from what I can see in terms of physical hands up and the blue hands on my screen, Zoom is working. I'll declare the motion passed. Thank you very much for that. Moving on then to the membership slide here. Your membership matters. I think we have about 250 members in our membership database right now, from coast to coast to coast. The majority are in Jasper and in Alberta, but we have 15 from BC, 3 from Ontario, 1 each from Quebec and the Yukon. And of course, we have Evan in Florida right now that's joined us, and we also have a member in New York. Warren has been the chair of the membership committee up until this AGM. Hopefully he'll stick around and do that, and we could get a couple other folks to help him out. We think that there's quite a lot of potential to increase our membership even more, which could be a priority as well if we're looking for other priorities in the next little while. But having said that, there is a motion on the floor that was made at the last regular meeting. Warren Waxer, seconded by Jamie Walker, had recommended that the membership dues remain the same. And the screen you're seeing at right now illustrates what those are. Is there any discussion on that motion? And I'll go to my participant thing here again, unless you just want to speak up. This is a lot of hands still up there. Does everybody want to talk?
No.
Anyone care to make a comment about the membership fees, or should I call the question? All those in favor of leaving the membership dues as they are? Okay, we've got some hands happening there now. Still don't look like I have a majority, but I suppose it's probably legitimate to ask who's opposed. But maybe that we're managing to get through this Zoom thing without too many technical problems yet, knock on wood. I'll just declare the motion carried because there's can't be outvoted for my math here. Anyway, so thanks for that. Which I guess takes us to the next item on the agenda, which is the financial statements and the treasurer's report. I did modify the little cartoon here. Give you a moment to take a look at it and have a good belly laugh. And then I will pass it on to Mr. Walker, who may want to make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Yeah, if I heard you right there, everything kind of went garbled. Heard that you want a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Yes, please.
I'd like to make that motion then.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
All right, Glenda, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Any questions for the treasurer or for Rob, for that matter? We did invite our accountant kind of late in the day to poke his face in just in case there was a really difficult question. But I think we probably have the expertise if there is one out there that somebody would like to ask a question of the treasurer or of Rob. A lot of hands up there, but I'm assuming those are votes from the last time. Ruth, did you have a question? All right, well, all those in favor of accepting the treasurer's report and the financial statements? Okay, to me, that would appear to be carried. Next motion is also one that we have on the books already, that Boomer Professional Corp be engaged to provide a note to reader for 2021. That motion was made by Jamie Walker, seconded by Mike Cameron. Is there any discussion on the motion? Let me see if I can get my participant list here again. Multitasking. All those in favor of appointing Mr. Boomer for a note to reader? All right, actually 10 participants raising 11. All right. I'm getting a little window. I don't have to actually scroll. That's carried. Thank you. Now here's a more challenging part. A motion to appoint person X and person Y as society auditors to take a look at the financial statements on behalf of the society and sign off on them. Do we have a couple of volunteers? And given our Zoom world, you probably don't have to necessarily be in Jasper to succeed in this. Mr. Boomer was pretty good this year. He had the reports out to us about a week ago, so there was enough time for us to consider it. Now I see Ruth's hands up, Nancy Beth's hands up, Wayne and Janice hands up, but I'm not sure you're volunteering as auditors. Somebody want to just unmute themselves and volunteer?
I'll volunteer for that.
Is that Ron?
Yes, it is.
All right, Ron McGaffin, that's one volunteer. Thank you very much. Do we have another volunteer?
Herb, I'll help out.
And I'm sorry, I didn't, who is that?
It's Karen Byers.
Great, Karen, appreciate that. Well, we don't have to have a big contest here. How about a motion then that would appoint Ron McGaffin and Karen Byers as society auditors for 2021? Can somebody make that motion, please? I got some hands raised, but I'm not sure who they are.
That motion, James Walker will make that motion. Herb.
Okay, Mike Cameron will second it. James Walker will make the motion. Thanks so much. And then we have, I think this might be our last motion now, in terms of the financial report. Kind of convenient that we had an annual general meeting because resolutions like this are supposed to happen with a special meeting or an annual general meeting. So a motion to approve to obtain a $20,000 CEBA loan, which would be our second such loan. Whoops, sorry, I'm gonna have to go back. I can't see my face or anybody else's rated more. So I'm gonna have to end this show right for the time being. But in any event, what the motion had to do was obtaining the $20,000 CEBA grant. The government has come out with offering that again. If we pay back half of it, we get to keep the other half. It seems like kind of a no-brainer. Ruth, are you making that motion? Or are you just waving at me because you're friendly?
I'll make that motion.
That's Catherine. Catherine Howe. And seconder?
I'll second it. It's Dee Dee.
Dee Dee will second it. All right, is there any discussion on the motion? All right then, all those in favor of obtaining another loan for the $10,000 free money on from the taxpayer, I guess. So far, all right. I see hands up and I see the blue hands, it's carried. Thank you very much. Let's go back to share screen.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
We had a motion, but we didn't have a vote to appoint those kind people who volunteered to be auditors.
Thank you. I'm glad somebody is keeping me honest here. Stop the share. So the motion on the two auditors, you got that recorded, Mel? I think it was Jamie and Mike, right? To appoint.
Yeah, a motion made by James Walker to appoint Ron McGaffin and Karen Byers as society auditors for 2021, seconded by Mike Cameron.
Okay, now there was a question I kind of had by chat, which I might as well share with folks. I believe our bylaws are calling for any society member to help us do the audit. And that's what we have with the motion. Personally, I don't find it difficult that that Karen's also an employee, but that question was asked. So anybody care to make a political judgment on whether that's some kind of a conflict? Personally, I don't feel it is, but
I'll bow out if somebody else wants to step up. Herb.
I think it's great you're volunteering, but I don't see it's a problem. But anybody care to replace Karen just to avoid that, or does anybody want to make a comment on whether we should be concerned?
Personally, I don't think there's a concern.
I don't feel there's a concern either. Any lawyers in the group that might like to offer an opinion?
I have no concern, Mr. President. I appreciate Karen and Ron stepping forward. I thank them both.
All right. All right, and thanks for the reminder then. All those in favor of that motion to appoint those two individuals? All right, that's carried. Thanks for the reminder. So back to the next important part of the meeting. And let's see what my notes say there. Shouldn't be many notes. Election of officers and directors. So going down to that particular point, starting from the current slide. Here is what we have for the current board. And I just wanted to once again thank those people that are stepping off. And as I said in my report, hopefully not to rescind their society membership and still to charge their batteries up and help us out in some way. And of course, I'm referring to Ann Thomas, Jerry Lettner, Greg Key, and Andy Klimak. So thanks so much for your help this past year. I also should make mention of Mel Hindle, who's staying on the board, but's finding that the secretary demands a little bit much at this particular point. So appreciate the fact that she's busy toiling tonight, taking the minutes. But what that does leave us with is this situation, if my click works properly, where we do have we have some slots here. The current board or officers are as you see. And I'm going to turn this part of the meeting over to the chair of the nominating committee, Warren Waxer. And there are some nominations that we have kind of confirmed at this point. So Warren, if you care to carry on.
Great. Yeah, so you can see the names of the new members. I'll separate them out there. So new to the board are Ron McGaffin, who lives in Ardrossan and has experience on boards and also as an officer for engineering firms. He's currently advising an engineering firm and is semi-retired. I believe that he also has a background in landscaping, fits right into our plan. Terry Begley, recently retired employee from Seton Hospital, and he was in the maintenance department there. And he's not sure how his background is going to serve us, but it's quite obvious. If he has a pulse and he knows a little bit about maintenance, he's our type of man. Okay, and Cameron Mahler, a young Jasperite, and not very long out of high school, but we checked with the principal and he did graduate. And he has a great interest in the community and our history. And he's currently employed with Tourism Jasper in their IT department as a website manager. Falls right into our plan for a new website. No, of course, I'm sure all three of these members come with a variety of skills, and it's just great to see some new members in here. So if you do the math, we have enough directors. We're actually short a secretary. No one wanted the secretary position. So as a result, we're going to rotate that every meeting. So the numbers work out. It's just we have a secretary vacancy. but the right numbers overall. So this is a little different than normal. So I'll ask for any nominations from the floor. Is there anyone else who wants to join this band? And I can't see all the screens, so you may have to unmute yourself if you're wanting to get in here. I'll ask again, any nominations from the floor for the 2021 Historical Society Board? And a final time, is there anyone interested in joining the Historical Society Board? Okay, so everyone's happy with the slate as it is. So could I have a nomination to approve the slate of candidates for 2021? I can't see hands, so.
I nominate,
Mike Cameron made the motion for nominations to cease.
Okay. Oh, sorry, nominations to cease. Yes, I guess that's the first thing. Sorry. Seconder for nominations to cease?
Janice Yeaman seconds that.
Okay, Mike Cameron and Janice Yeaman. All in favor of ceasing the nominations?
Okay, that looks to me to be a carried, well, 8, 9, 10. I better not get too hurried here. Yeah, that's the majority. That's carried. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have ceased nominations. Now, could I have a motion to approve the slate of candidates as listed for 2021 for the Jasper-Yellowhead Historical Society Board?
Robin Nurgitz makes the motion. Seconder.
Okay, Robin and seconder,
Richard Ireland.
and Mr. Ireland. Okay. All in favor of the motion to accept the slate of candidates?
Okay, that's a majority. That's carried. We've managed to slip through.
Cool.
Thanks very much, Warren. This one last item I wanted to mention. Want to thank and acknowledge as well Mr. Ireland, who is currently our ex officio board member representing the municipality. I think this is about Richard's third round since we kind of partnered with using ex officio members. So glad to see you hanging around there, Richard. Your insights and your contributions are always welcome. I'm not sure if you're staying on in the next round, but you appear here now tonight. So thanks for that. The last item, Warren didn't put it this way, but one of the things that you may have noticed from the report that Hatley have suggested is we might dispense with doing these elections this way and elect 11 or elect 12 directors and then have the directors arm wrestle for the officer positions. And that's something we'll have to consider. But we could practice because we have 8 candidates that we've just nominated to the board, and we have 1 secretary position open. So I think these 8 people can kind of flip coins, arm wrestle. You guys might have to decide which of you will be the secretary. That could be a good way of testing that. Or of course we could rotate like Warren kind of gave you the out, but I kind of like my approach a little bit. All right, having said that, I think that kind of constitutes the business part of the AGM that we needed to conduct. Nobody's got kicked out of the meeting yet, knock on wood. Everything seems pretty cool. We'll have one more motion, and that's to adjourn in a couple of minutes. But I would like to turn it back. I'm going to stop screen sharing. I'm going to turn it back to Mr. Waxer, who is going to wrap up our meeting with a bit of a recognition item. So Warren, on to you.
Warren, you're muted.
Sorry, a little technical problem. It went so well the first time. Are people seeing pictures?
No,
Okay.
I was just
No,
busy
hold on.
talking away, muted. So I was about to say we've done really well without technical problems so far, knock on wood.
Okay, if you can just bear with me here. Talk amongst yourself.
Hey folks, I'm wondering who is iPad mini and who is Jasper. Could you let me know your full names or type it in the chat?
Hi Mel, I'm iPad mini, Ann Thomas.
Okay, I figured.
Jasper is Dawn and Sandra Nathan.
Perfect, thank you.
and I just want to say hi to Kevin in Florida.
We'd like to say hi to everybody. I miss you folks I spent so much time down in the basement with.
Hi, you, Karen and Evan.
Hey, yeah.
Enjoying all the views down there, right?
Now, can you see the last slide I had of Peter and Tom?
No.
Nope.
No. Oh boy. Hold on, let's.
Warren, you're getting all red.
Is there a doctor in the house?
Cameron, do you have time to run over to Warren's house?
Okay,
just sing a song, Warren.
Yeah. Okay, let's try this again. We'll start from the beginning. A very good place to start.
There it is, Warren. It's coming up.
Okay. I knew perseverance would pay off in the end. Okay, you're seeing the last one, right? So you see a blank screen?
Yes.
And you're happy with that? Not a very demanding audience. I like it. I like it. Okay. As you may or may not know, Dee Dee Bartlett is retiring at the end of this month. And yes, applause. Now, a lot of people think that Dee Dee came with the building, in particular the basement, but actually she migrated here. Now, this is a little known fact, but I did some digging. Dee Dee first arrived in Jasper from New Brunswick as a student to work at the Jasper Park Lodge for the summer. Now, I had to do a little more digging, and I was lucky enough to pick up an advanced copy of Dee Dee's upcoming autobiography, Tales from the Crypt, My Life as an Archivist. Now, let me just read you a bit to set the scene. The train jerked, hissed, and squealed to a stop, waking me. Oh, hold on. I glanced out the window to see an enormous totem pole. Oh no, I've slept through my stop and we're in Prince Rupert. As I stumbled onto the deserted platform, I was relieved to see the station sign said Jasper. Phew. Now, where is the Jasper Park Lodge and how am I going to get there? Out of the steam walked a man with a trim mustache, smoking a pipe. He looked like he might know a thing or two, so I stopped him and asked, "Hey, cowboy, does anyone in this one-horse town have a tally-ho available to get me to the Jasper Park Lodge?" He scowled and replied, "Don't worry, miss, I have lots of horses, but I keep them at the back of town with my tally-ho. I'm trying out this new form of transportation, a touring sedan. Ever seen one before?" "Oh, I'm from New Brunswick. We even have electric lights," I boasted, Never mind, Miss Sophisticated. Jump in and I'll drive you over. It was a long, bumpy ride across a river, through a dark forest, and alongside the most beautiful green lake I'd ever seen. Finally, in the distance, I saw a large log building. Whew, that looks like a fire hazard, but I knew we must be getting close. The driver swept his hand across the windshield. He claimed that this whole operation used to be his. Oh, these livery drivers sure do like to BS. I mean, dream. So what are you doing out at the lodge this summer? I pulled out my job offer from my pocket and proudly read, Guest Experience Associate, Housekeeping Division. Oh, so you're a scullery maid, are you? A what? Never mind, dear. By the way, what's your name? Diane Jean Bartlett. I replied, but my friends call me DJ. Ooh, bad bit of luck, Diane. We already have a DJ. Runs a British woolen shop in town. You'll have to come up with another nickname. We have lots of horses, but this is a one DJ town, he said with a smile. Why don't you try out Dee Dee for the summer? See how that works. I grabbed my bag and closed the door. Yes, I think I will, Mr. Sorry, I didn't get your name. He yelled back out the open window as the car roared away. Red Rooster? What kind of name is Red Rooster for a stately fellow like that? I think he's the one who needs a new nickname. Anyways, after settling in to Jasper, Dee Dee worked a number of jobs, including bookkeeping at Penny Pincher's Accounting. Little did she know the detailed and precise accounting mindset would serve her well in her future vocation. It was 1990 when Dee Dee first became associated with the museum by volunteering in the archives, working with Glenda Cornforth, Edith Gourley, and Gladys Barnes. From there, she moved to grant-funded term positions, working on various archive backlog projects, such as the Tommy Knox photo collection, and took over from Gladys as accessions clerk when she retired. Sorry. Dee Dee worked as archive assistant on a number of times for Glenda, helping her to create the ANA database and the photos and booster database, as well as the Jasper Reflection Project, as you may remember. Other projects included the Jyhs collection that entailed sorting negatives and background research, the Jasper Insight Project, scanning photos to be uploaded to the Archive Society of Alberta website, or at least Insight database, and the Alberta ASA in Word project, which required digitalizing documents to make them available for online studies. In 2005, Dee Dee took over the collections. Throughout her career, Dee Dee grew with the changes and challenges that technology brought. From flying shards of slate as she chiseled a reference number of an artifact into a tablet, through the endless filing and filling out of cards for the card catalog system, right through to computers. To stay current, Dee Dee signed up for computer classes at the high school and then took it one step further by enrolling at NAIT in computer technology. Early in the process, Dee Dee saw the benefits of using the same database as the Archives of Alberta and having the ability to share. She was also an early proponent of not only digitalizing paper archives and photos, but also the artifacts in our collection. Now what was only accessible to those in the basement was now digital, now in a digital form. Some of the processes, acronyms, and details of the archives are somewhat confusing. And in some ways, they're best worked on in secret in a windowless basement. But they are the heart of our organization. to precisely curate, preserve, and document the papers, photos, and objects that are our collective history is decidedly unglamorous and essential to our mission. We can be proud that through Jyhs' efforts, the archives are more advanced than most institutions of our size and many that are much larger. Jyhs was never just a basement dwelling monk. She excelled and hopefully enjoyed sharing the wealth of knowledge that she acquired from the tedium. We owe her much for leading or facilitating many historical society outings and coffee breaks. And just as one subtle example of Jyhs' dedication to her work, the one thing I noticed was at these events that she often organized or had some role in organizing, she was always the one off to the side taking the pictures. And it's subtle, but it speaks very deeply to the ingrained desire to get it documented and get it right. Really key elements to a good archivist. In Jyhs' line of work, attention to detail, precision, and passion are crucial, and the archives and museum and the society have all benefited greatly from her short 35-year stint. And I know we'd all like to wish Jyhs a well-deserved retirement filled with leisurely hours paddling her kayak out at Lucerne. Yes, we really, really would like to do this. However, a quick look at the extensive backlog in the archives, it makes it obvious that, sorry, your request for retirement has been denied. Please feel free to apply again next year, and best luck with any future endeavors.
Awesome.
Stevie.
Right on. Good job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Dee. Good job.
All right, I have one last item that I wanted to just put up here. For some reason, I should have just put it on to Warren's. It's just the it's this, right? But I wanted to say as well, I kind of neglected making mention of our candidates, even though I was sort of giving her a bit of a hard time about waving at me and not saying anything. Is Ruth Rempel has stepped back onto the board as a candidate this year as well. She was with us a couple years ago. So thanks for that, Ruth, and welcome, and sorry about the oversight there. And having said that, I would like to suggest that Ruth is making a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a seconder for that motion? Let's see.
Herb, can I have a minute just to say a couple of things?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Warren for the lovely presentation and for everybody. I've worked with most of you over the years, and it's been a wonderful experience. Some amazing people, and it's been wonderful. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And Dee Dee, it's Karen. Could you go out on your front porch, because there's something waiting for you there.
Good job, Karen.
I hope it's there.
The suspense is pretty amazing.
Well, this was on my front porch. Shall I open it? Wow. Oh, it's a photograph of Lucerne, one of my favorite places in the world. Yeah, and it's, wow, it's got a nice little, yeah, memo on the back. Wow, thank you, everyone. I love it. I love Lucerne. How did you know?
All right. Well, thank you again, Dee Dee, and thanks everybody for taking part in the meeting this evening. A relatively successful one. I'm happy about that. I suggested Ruth has made a motion to adjourn. Do we have a seconder? Let's see. Okay, Robin Nurgitz. Thanks, Robin. And welcome to Cam, to Ron, to Terry and Ruth. Thanks so much for stepping up this year. We appreciate the offer to help because we do have a lot of interesting times coming ahead of us and exciting times. So without further ado, I think what I'm prepared to do now is probably go in the living room and rest a little bit and wish you all a wonderful evening. Thanks very much.